Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal.
That's right, it's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com, SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show, and to call and talk to us live, 818-602-4929. That's 818-602-4929. A very special show all this hour, thought up by my good friend Scott Lowell, who's returning to the show. Scott, come and say hi.
Hi, how are you? It's good to see you again, Sheena. I'm on the phone with Sharon Gless. She's trying to figure out how to
Sharon, we're going to pick you up, sweetie. It's all good.
She's going to pick you up in just a second. You stay on there.
We are doing a reunion for the 10-year anniversary of one of the most innovative and cool shows on TV, Showtime's Queer as Folk. And we have almost the whole cast with us today. Of course, Scott, who played Ted. Thea Gill is here. Michelle Clunie is with me in studio. And everybody else is going to be on the phone, so we're getting everybody in. Hang tight. And it's so great to have you here. Welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena.
Okay, Michelle, let's start with you.
Oh.
Because Scott is busy trying to get everybody on the phone. Give us a little background on you and where you came from and as an actor and how you wound up with Queer as Folk.
Oh, boy. I didn't know I'd be first. Where did I come from? I hail from Portland, Oregon. I moved to Los Angeles at a young age to follow my dream, and my agent sent me the script for Queer as Folk, and I read it, and of course on page like 66 or 70 it said, I don't care what men think about their dicks, and I thought, wow, I want to play this part. This is interesting. You don't see that every day. And it was great, and that's how it came into my life.
Did you have any idea, Michelle, the impact that it was going to wind up making on the world?
I don't think any of us did. I think it was just a really cool script. It was a great and new idea in that it was about the lives of these characters who happened to be gay, but that was secondary to the fact that they were just living their lives as everyone else, loving and living and following dreams and getting their heart broken. And in that respect, it was revolutionary. And I don't think any of us had any idea. We were just making a show, and we were more interested in making a good show. And I think that, the fact that when we went to New York for the first time, we were shocked at the response and people screaming and wanting autographs. That because we were shocked, I don't think we had any clue, really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, and you will always be these people forever. No matter what you go on to do as an actor, you will still always have this. I mean, that's awesome.
A piece of it.
Not good, Scott?
I think you carry characters with you.
No, of course it's a good thing.
Well, when you affect the world with a role.
Yeah, people keep wanting to give me psychiatric help, though, and that's...
No, people keep wanting to hug you because you're so cute.
Get you into rehab.
Exactly.
Taya, how about you? What's your background as an actor, and how did you wind up with this?
I'm from Vancouver, Canada.
Oh. And, come a little closer to the mic for me.
I'm
Canadians are shy.
Yes. And I was in Toronto, and I auditioned for the role of Lindsay in Queer as Folk, and it was just one of those transformative experiences. I was flown to LA, and one of the greatest events of my life happened. And I'm very proud of the show, and very proud of everyone I've worked with. And I think it is revolutionary, and I think it's changed a lot of people's lives, and I'm very grateful to have been a part of it. And Scott, just for my listeners, I know they've heard you before on the show, but give us a quick rundown of how you wound up with it.
I similarly, had moved to Los Angeles about 2 years before the show started, and was just hitting the auditioning trails, and things were starting to get going here. And there was one day I was sent a script for a movie about firemen. And I was sent the script for Queer as Folk, and I decided I had a better shot at getting cast in Queer as Folk than getting cast as a fireman. And so I did not go to the fireman audition, and I went to the Queer as Folk audition. And even though, Ted originally was described in the script as being chubby and balding, I was like, oh, well, I'm not quite there yet. But I just understood the guy so well, and I just loved the script, and I just went in, and I don't know. And I think they didn't really have a clear definition of this character, so I went in and showed my own neuroses to them, and they seemed to respond. And then they said, "Yeah, that's the sad sack we're looking for," and that was that.
You know it's a show with a lot of gay characters when you're the ugly one. Because you're a nice-looking man.
Well, thank you very much.
And I know I said this last time, but in high school, you would have been my boyfriend. You would have been the one that I went after.
I would have been honored.
Because you kind of like had that wounded puppy thing.
Yes. And oddly
Scott's
enough,
hot.
Oh, come on.
But he is, though. Really is. Yeah.
This is why I brought the girls into the studio. For just this reason.
Okay, so we've got people on the phone.
Yes. Now, Peter Paige was trying to call. He said he's disconnected from you. I'm going to have him call you back right now.
Please.
Okay.
I love Peter Paige. I'm almost stalking him.
Yay.
And Michelle, I loved you in Leaving Barstow.
Oh, which was directed by Peter Paige.
Oh my God, what a fantastic film!
Thank you.
It stayed with me for like a week afterwards.
Oh God, that's so sweet. Well, I was directed by Peter Paige, who is phenomenal. He's not only a great friend, but a great director and a great actor. And he was just on, what was he? He's on The Closer.
He was great on The Closer.
Yeah,
The Closer.
Kind of
Did I say
brassy
The Closer?
and nasty.
I'm thinking of that play, Closer.
Very Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah,
he was
brilliant. He was brilliant. I love him. Love him.
Okay, so we have on the phone, of course, Gale Harold, who's returning to the Sheena Metal Experience, who I love. And also the wonderful Sharon Gless, and Robert Gant is with me as well. It's welcome to all of you for being here.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you all. Okay, I'm going to ask you what I ask all the peeps in studio. Let's start with you, Sharon. You already had an enormous career and had done television and film, and you're a wonderful actress in theater. What about this role really grabbed you?
I thought when I read it, I thought this is the sexiest thing I've ever read. Not that my scenes were sexy, but I thought it was so stunning. I wanted to be a part of it. And I loved the role of Debby. I just thought she's so outrageous, and I can do something with this part. So I called Showtime. Someone sneaked it to me in Chicago. And I called Showtime, and I knew the assistant to Jerry Offsay, who was the head of Showtime, and I said, I want this part. What do I have to do? She said, well, let me talk to Jerry. Jerry said, I like the idea. I think she'll bring a little class to the project. I said, you tell Jerry class is not what I had in mind.
Sharon, did you have any idea at the time that you were going to become sort of the poster child for PFLAG moms for, perhaps eternity?
No, I had no idea that would be the reaction to my character, although I've loved the response ever since. But I knew it was going to be a very important piece, and nothing like this had been done before on television. In fact, when I went to meet the producers, I said, are you going to shoot what I just read? Because sometimes, they write scripts to get the money up. That isn't necessarily what they shoot. Do you know what I'm saying? So I said, you going to shoot what I just read? They said, every frame. I said, well, then send me in, Coach, because I got to be a part of this one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now, Gale, are you with me?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's so nice to have you here.
Hi, Gale.
So nice to talk to you again.
Hi, Gale.
Hello.
Hey, Gale.
Hello.
Hi, Gale.
Hello.
Hey,
Gale, last time Gale was here, we talked about Greek theater for an hour and Greek tragedy. We didn't even hardly talk about Queer as Folk. Gale, what was it about this role that made you want to do it? Because I think that certainly you felt the effects of this role. I mean, people have been emailing me about you for 3 days. So what was it about it that made you really want to do it? Because you're a very complex actor, and it was a very complex part.
I was... I think just listening to Sharon there for a second, I shared something with her, and forgive me, Sharon, if I misinterpret what you said, but there's something about, I think what kind of got to me was the dare of it, is this really going to happen? And if it is, would I be able to be able, I'm going to say that word about 5,000 times.
I'm loving it.
Would I be able to actually pull that off? And that's not a pun either. But, I think maybe that's part of it. And Sharon, like I said, if I'm getting you wrong, tell me, but there's something about, there's a little bit of terror in trying to imagine myself being able to not only do the physical acrobatics involved, but also being believable as the man who was that character. And I've seen the original, and it kind of blew my mind. And that was long before I ever knew they were going to make an adaptation. So that's
right, the British version. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have any?
No, you're not wrong. That's how I felt.
Did you have any idea, Gale, how it would kind of change your life in, some good ways and some kind of weird ways, that you would become an icon?
No, for being someone who's kind of guilty of overthinking things, I totally missed the clues that were coming down the line. Like I didn't see it coming at all. And actually, it was a little bit shocking, It kind of, I don't know how you got other guys, Michelle and Thea and Scott and Robert and Sharon. I mean, you kind of withdraw a bit when you have that sort of a reaction. It's so, it's great to have a really positive reaction, or any kind of reaction that's got that sort of intricate to it. But it kind of makes you, try to grab your bearings for a second,
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
You kind of can withdraw like Elvis, because you can't go anywhere and not be swarmed.
Oh my God.
Well, and you're kind of a thinker, and kind of like you're not a showy guy. When you were in here last time with Denise Crosby, and we had a wonderful talk, and we talked all about theater, and you have a great love for the craft. But you're not like the, hey, how you doing? I'm going to show up at every red carpet and show off kind of guy. You're kind of a mellow guy.
Yeah, that kind of creeps me out, but that's not my trick.
and Peter has joined us. Peter Paige. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
We were just talking about how great you were on The Closer, and how you kind of played a great asshole.
Oh, I missed it.
The new Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, I think that you should have your own show where you just kill for sport.
They did that show with Michael C. Hall, unfortunately.
Oh, that's true.
No, but he kind of kills for a different reason. I think you should just kill for sport. Peter, I'm such a fan, and I think you're such an amazing director. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from as an actor, and then how you wound up on Queer as Folk?
I was like a theater boy. I had been kind of working the regionals and finally moved to LA, and I'd been here about 3 years, kind of guest starring on stuff, doing a lot of sitcoms mostly. And one day a casting director grabbed me at the gym and said, Showtime just bought the rights to this British show called Queer as Folk. If I were you, I'd make a phone call. And
wow.
And that was different than the usual grabs you get
Locked
at the gym.
That's the gym. Well, the gym is the center of all things entertainment. I mean, let's face it, all things entertainment and all things gay. So the nexus of those two axes. So and really the rest of the history. I was in the first day of auditions. With right before or after Scott Lowell, and shortly somewhere near when Hal Sparks was going in, and we sent Sharon in for her meeting. She was lost. We found her and sent her in. That's a true story. And that was it. Although the story that's sort of not as widely known, that I probably shouldn't be telling, is that Emmett was originally supposed to be black. And so when we screen tested, which is when you do your final audition in front of all the executives for the network and the president of the network, he didn't even look at me. He didn't even watch my audition, basically, because I was the only not black guy there. And then when the auditions ended, the guy said, well, we want Peter. And he was like, which one was Peter? And they were like, white one. And he was like, no, you can't have him. And so I had to come back and do it again. So that's how I got the time.
Peter was the pigmentally challenged person of color.
Yes.
Exactly. I got soul, baby. I'm not a soldier, but I got soul.
And Robert Gant is with us as well. Robert, hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Wonderful. How did you come to this place?
First of all, I just want to say my favorite thing in the world is to hear these people's voices. I got to tell you,
yeah, it's great.
Is like family. It just warms my heart. The most amazing thing. I came out here. I was from Tampa. I kind of actually was on a kind of a law track very briefly, and left it and started doing the acting thing. And I was bouncing around doing mostly sitcom stuff. And of course, I came on, and the show was already a big hit. These guys had been busting their asses for the first season, and it was just the talk of the town. And I remember an actor friend saying to me one time that you'll just I was saying, I need to get that part. I just want to get that right thing. And he said, the right one all of a sudden will come across your desk and it'll all line up. And I remember getting the facts information on this role, and just the description was such that I completely had that moment where it was kind of scary, sort of terrifying, because I was still largely closeted, as an actor, and yet I had that feeling that I've never read a role that felt more right for me, or like my role, and so I went through a very long, drawn out process. They had some issues with the kind of the guy that had gone before, and they were really careful about replacing, finding Michael's next partner, and so I think I went in like 4 or 5 times auditioning here in Los Angeles, and I finally actually, they said I was their pick, but they just weren't sure, and so I finally did what I had never done before. I wrote a long, sort of impassioned letter to let them know what it meant to me, and then the next day or two they said, I said, I got the call that, well, we have good news and bad news. You're going to go meet for the part, but you don't have it yet. You have to pack as if you're going to, in case you get it. So they flew me to Toronto. I didn't know if I had it or not, and I had to meet with them and meet with Hal, and so it went. And it was amazing.
One of the things that I loved, Scott, when you came on the show the first time, was when you told me how you guys really did become a real family, and that you are still very close and a real family.
Yeah.
For 10 years. I mean, that's really important, right? I think our tribes in this town are one of the most important things about being here.
Tribes, yeah.
And to form a tribe that you can rely on, of friends that you can call, that is still strong 10 years later, that all of you are still in 10 years later. I think that's totally beautiful, and I think that's one of the things that makes the what's gone after the show has been canceled so special to fans, is that you are...
I agree. It keeps going. It's not something, any of us can fake, I don't think. We're not that good of actors. And, it was... and it's
well, wait a minute.
Well, Sharon
was nominated for another Emmy.
The multi-Emmy award winning
Sharon
Gless.
Emmy Gless.
She despises us all in real life, and she deigns to give us her presence.
Yeah. She just stepped on Scott's head to get on my internet radio show. I know what she's
exactly.
like.
I really feel as though Scott, though, is the glue that kind of
I do
holds it together.
Yeah,
I mean, I think everyone, plays their part, but Scott really, there's something about him, he just holds it together, for me anyway. I don't know. You bring us together a lot.
Thank you.
Scott is definitely Julie the cruise director.
Yeah, I mean, he brought us together today. He brought us together
and so
today.
Quickly. He just had an idea, and this was all Scott's idea for everybody listening. Scott was going to come hang out with me again to celebrate my 2-year anniversary month. And he put this whole thing together, and you guys all did it, which just blew me away and took time out of your schedules.
Scott is one of the sweetest men I've ever met. He kind of restores your faith.
Thank you. I'm blushing. I'm blushing through the airwaves. But it's also, it's also what I think what made the show unique, and something that again just bled through with the show, that we were a family, and that we were able to push each other and do things on the show that I don't think it would have been quite as successful had we not been the family we were.
Right.
And you can see it. I mean, maybe I can, or maybe people who are are actors who have been on other shows. When you watch shows and you can tell the cast doesn't really get along,
sure.
You can kind of feel it, and there's something there that's kind of dry about it, and we were moist.
We were wet.
Wow. Gross. That's disgusting, Scott.
Sorry, Pete.
We were all plucked out of our lives. Most of us. I mean, Thea was the only one living in Canada at the time, and the rest of us were all sort of grabbed from New York or LA and given a week or two to pack up our lives and plopped into Toronto to shoot this series. So we were really dependent on each other that first season. We needed each other to survive, and I think that paid extraordinary dividends. And then we went through 9/11 together.
Yeah.
I mean, we were shooting. I still remember
I
the
remember
scene we were
that.
shooting.
Yep, I do too. I do too.
I remember that day.
I remember
so
that
clearly.
day so well. It wasn't at your apartment, Scott, where everybody got together.
Yep. After
it was such a sad, shocking day. We were all away from home, and remember, I went to the Red Cross to try and give blood, and they turned me down.
Right. Well, because you drink so much.
But to have your apartment to go to, and There was the whole cast, all just huddled together.
Yeah, and we lived through. Do you remember the night that Bush stole the election, or maybe I shouldn't say anything too inflammatory.
Oh, Michelle, tell us what you really think.
Well, I mean, that night, I just remember that night so clearly because the next day was my birthday. My birthday always falls around election time. And I remember Thea, I don't know, there was a cake involved. And I just remember that next day, it was a huge event in American history when our country shifted and you thought, oh, that can happen. And we lived through that together, and we lived through so many breakups. I remember, I think all of us almost lost our relationship that first year because of the demands of being on the road and all of that.
Yeah. As an actor, do you feel the effects of doing a show where the world is changing with you on the show? You know, the show was addressing a lot of political issues as our country was going through a lot.
Well.
Do you realize that you're doing that and that people are watching your show sort of to see, well, what's Queer as Folk going to, how's they going to handle this? How are they going to handle gay marriage? How are they going to handle
honestly,
this issue?
I feel
gay
like
marriage wasn't in the.
I was going to say, and people on the phone chime in too, but I feel like we were ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff.
Dan and Ron were really, I mean, you have to credit them because I think we were bringing up gay marriage at a time when people weren't talking about it.
Right. It was a joke and we're all going to go to Canada.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was.
Exactly. And so I think we were ahead of the curve.
And crystal meth addiction stuff.
Right.
And all that stuff, I think, was a little bit ahead of the curve somehow. Right. They were able to do that. Do you guys agree over there in Phone Land?
Peter, how about you?
All of us.
Peter, do you think that...
I was just sitting here thinking, when I'm really involved in a series, I almost don't know what's going on outside.
That's true.
Right.
I don't. I mean, I'm like just totally involved in doing our story.
Well, again, that's because you drink so much.
Yeah.
But we did. But you know what's interesting is that we did because I remember 4 years later when Kerry was running for president, and we got together and we went across the country and we were campaigning, and it did. There was was something special always when politics and art collide. That there's a special feeling in the air always for me on the show that we were doing something that was more than television, that we were trying to really, I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah.
Create a revolution, but of peace, you know, of love, of acceptance. And I just remember times when like we wrote that letter to the president of Showtime, or did you and Peter author it or something? Yeah. And we didn't want a frame changed.
Peter and I were the secretaries.
Yeah, they're the secretaries.
And did we write a letter? What did we write a letter about?
Peter, remember, we wanted to make sure that they were going to change and water down the sex scenes, and we wanted to make sure that they didn't water it down because we wanted to be...
We wrote a letter about that?
Yes, I have it on file. Trust me.
We were
I'm the
worried,
historian of the group.
We had heard tell that early on, before the show started airing, that Showtime had made a decision to go through the ratings board to get a rating for the show, because at this point in time, I don't think anything above an R-rated show could be broadcast, and they felt like, if we were to get rated, we would get rated NC-17 or X with some of the things we were doing.
And then they would put you on at like 2 in the morning.
Exactly. And we found out there was and so we were very upset by this, that they were going to go to the ratings board, and the ratings board would say, you can't put the show on the air, or it's at NC-17 or it's X or whatever. And so we wrote this very upset letter to the president of Showtime, saying that we put literally our asses out there, and we would be very upset if this were to happen. And what it turned out to be was that they were they wanted to show the members of their board and other people like that, and because the ratings board came back and said, this is a terrific show. Yes, it's NC-17. If you make any cuts in this, you will ruin the integrity of this show. Don't do it. And so they put it on the air without a rating and just did the mature rating on it.
But we were ready to fight for it.
But we were ready to fight for it, and all along the lines.
And I think for me that it was always, I don't know, kind of the spirit of the group. It's kind of like, I don't know about you guys, but when we all met and Thea threw this beautiful welcoming party in Toronto because she had this home there, this beautiful home, and she invited us all into it, and we were all getting to know each other. And I remember that night so clearly, and it's kind of like meeting all your soulmates all at once.
Right.
And not having sex, but metaphysically having sex. Like it was kind of like here's a big group
Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Clunie.
What did it become sexual just now? Sorry. But it's kind of like here's a large group for of people who are your soulmates and your kindred spirits, and you're all kind of rebels, and you want to do things that no one else or everyone else is afraid to do, and so that was special in that.
Yeah, I remember that when we were doing the shoot for the Time magazine.
Yeah.
And Macy Gray was playing, and we felt.
But I mean, honestly, don't you think? And all of you are very talented and wonderful actors, and let me say that. And I meet a lot of actors. Part of what made the show special was that there was no weak link. You were all so good, but also. Sometimes I think as actors we come to the point where we kind of step into our universal purpose that's more than just playing roles. It's also affecting the world and being a citizen of the universe and writing a letter when you think something shouldn't be cut, or campaigning for a candidate, or coming out and speaking. And that makes you even, it almost trumps the creativity. I mean, it doesn't really, but it's a whole different, ball of wax.
Yeah,
it's made life afterward an interesting thing as an artist, because it's really hard to compare when you get to do something you love, and that it aligns with the notion that it is impacting the world in this way. I mean, how do you follow that up? It really kind of it's really tough to find that sort of a scenario.
Yeah, it's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that you all are kind of spiritual soulmates makes it extra special, and makes the project extra special. And I think, like you said, the audience can feel that, Scott. People can tell when people hate each other.
Yeah, I can absolutely see it now. I mean, maybe it's just with the experience, but when I watch things, I can just kind of tell if they get along.
Names.
Well,
this is the McCarthy.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that show Burn Notice on the USA? No.
Hey, that's a great show.
It's a great show. They're all wonderful.
But you kind of can. I mean, sometimes after you see the E! True Hollywood Story, you'll go back and watch the show from 40 years ago, and you're like, oh, I can kind of see that they
absolutely
kind of staring at each other.
Absolutely. You could see that Chachi didn't really love Joni.
Oh, great, Scott. Now my whole day is ruined. For real?
That's right.
My bubbles burst.
Great.
I think also because we all were from another country except for Thea, but I mean, we were all away from home. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I got my first apartment, I got it the year after you guys did. And Peter took me around to buy my furniture, and that was a bonding. And you guys came over and played cards, and
we bought Gale.
Because I wasn't
help
stripping
Gale buy
down.
his
They
bed.
paid me to keep my clothes on.
Yeah.
So I did.
That's a shame, though.
Not season 4. Not season 4. I remember seeing some shit in season 4.
But you guys are all ballsy actors. I mean, to do those kind of sex scenes that we had never seen on television before, to be the first always takes guts.
Well, it's fun. Yes. I think it's fun. But that's me. I mean, I read
Michelle's
scripts
a Scorpio,
now.
and that's why she took the role.
No, I read scripts, and everyone thinks that they're trying to be so racy, and I'm like, geez, this is as far as we're going to take it. I mean...
I know.
Right.
It's kind of, I mean, like Peter and Sharon and I mean, everyone else is saying, it's like Robert. It's like after Queer as Folk, it's kind of like, what do you do? I mean,
play nuns.
Yeah, exactly.
I did a sitcom, you guys know, that never saw the light of day. Yeah. After our show, and I was waiting to go on. It was like, we do it in front of a live audience, so I'm nervous. And the wardrobe person came over and said, "Are you cold, honey?" And I said, "No, why?" And she said, "Well, your nipples are up. And here, would you mind putting these on?" And I said, "Are you kidding?"
You went to a nipple pad, Sharon?
These nipple covers, yeah. And I said, "Are you kidding? I just did a show for 6 years, and one of these was in someone's mouth."
Did you say?
I think that was actually Taya's breast that was in my mouth. Taya's breast was in my mouth the first day I shot.
That's a good first day, though.
Lights on before every take.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Michelle Clunie would turn her headlights on before every take.
I was turning the lights on? What?
No, he said you turned your headlights on.
Absolutely. I would flip my nipples to kind of get, because a lot of, look, I don't have big breasts.
It's art, people.
But when my nipples are erect, it's just really, it's
powerful.
Great. So that's kind of like my...
It ups the cup.
You guys, I have to go. It's 9:30 here, and I have a husband who's waiting to eat dinner.
Oh, dang.
I'm in Miami.
Thank you, Dame Gless.
Thank you so much for being with us,
love
Sharon.
You, Sharon.
Thank you, Sheena. I love you guys.
Love you, Dame.
Love you, Rachel.
Bye, Sharon. Come and see
talking
me again. I'd love that.
Talking about sex, though, I want to kind of tie this in somehow.
Yeah, let's talk some more about sex.
I think if America had more sex, we would have fewer problems.
Well, we're a country, right, Michelle, based on violence and not sex.
Yeah,
Very prudish about sex.
You know what's interesting? I did this interview the other day, and this guy says to me, "What was it like making out with a woman?" Now, this is a young
He
gay
didn't know?
man.
Oh, no, he was gay.
20-year-old young gay man,
Right.
you know? And I'm thinking to myself, I said, well, why is it when people interview actors who have played in, like, war movies, they don't say, what was it like to simulate killing someone? You know, I think that's more frightening than having a breast in your mouth. I mean, that was actually a fantastic first day of shooting. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
but like I said, I think we need to make love, not war.
I agree. Well, but we're children of the Puritans.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm available tonight. If
Wow.
Wow.
And what's interesting, it's you bring up the sexual factor, is that even though the gay community arguably has more openness around sexuality, we were really taken to task over that representation. Of course, all the drug aspect and whatnot, but also just the rampant sexuality. It seemed, I think, to many people like airing dirty laundry, and people weren't willing to own it. You know, and really some people really had a problem with the show because of some of those representations that they felt were too out there, even if they were true.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, still, I mean, I went to the 25th annual GLAAD LGBT Images in Media Awards. It wasn't the awards show, it was just like a celebration, right? And they show this like documentary, and I think there was one like fast clip in this hour-and-a-half long documentary of it was Gale in like a scene that lasted like all of 5 seconds, and I'm thinking, in this documentary there's not more queer as folk, and I wasn't upset because I've got the memories, and that's great. But I found it interesting, for a show that, I mean, as we all know, we received so many letters from so many, kids and people across the
Oh, and
nation.
Still, literally, I have an inbox.
Still, yeah.
No, it's interesting also that the whole idea of sexuality in on television elicited so much violence.
Yeah.
That I thought was a very dramatic result of the show.
We've come a long way with that.
Yeah.
And Queer as Folk really helped to break down those barriers, and it's not a gay thing, it's just a sex scene thing.
Sexuality
It's
in
just
America.
a sexuality
Yeah.
in general. And I think we can thank HBO and Showtime and the premium channels for really kind of pushing that along.
I agree.
And now the cable channels have followed the TNTs and the USAs and have really kind of followed along with that.
Yeah.
Gale, did you have to bear the brunt of that? Because I think you had clothes on for like 3 episodes.
I didn't have to do as much laundry.
Save time on costume fittings.
Blessing, but it's one of those blessings. Does it hurt or does it feel good? I can never figure that out. I just take them both. Yeah, it was kind of wild because I think it's when people can put you, what you appear to be, very close to their life, by means of a television or some sort of screen that's so close to them. There's a line there that becomes less and less distinct, and it could be my own paranoia, and it probably to some degree is, but it was 99.9% very kind and warm, but there was a little bit of a undercurrent that sometimes made me not sure, if there was an assumption by means of the image, but that's just being on screen, because I can remember what it was like to do it, and I can remember the images that were happening in my mind while I was performing, and then I can remember what it looked like on film, and it was an interesting experience for sure, but I'm very proud of it, It's taken me a while to be comfortable enough to be proud of it because it scared the shit out of me, basically.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, and the responsibility of here's a whole gay community that's looking at you, the 8 of you, to represent them. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of, no matter what the character is you're playing.
I would also like to say, too, that, I mean, I wasn't able to process this immediately, and it took a while to really try and sort it all out, but I felt like a little bit guilty that I was representing something that I didn't own for my own, for myself,
Right. Sure.
And then that kind of spins off in your mind. Am I doing justice to this? Mm-hmm. And if the assumption is that I am, then is there more to that? And if I then don't kind of express that clearly enough, and I don't want to get too complicated, but it seems like being overly analytical, and to some degree it is, but I didn't want to get it wrong. Mm-hmm. I did not want to get it wrong on any level.
Right. And was that the same for all of you? Well, I mean, not Peter and Robert, obviously, but for the rest of you to say, look, now I'm the icon for a community that I'm not a part of, so I don't quite know what to do about that.
It's rare. I mean, you're not prepared in, especially for a television show, to take on responsibility. And this was a show we all felt very responsible to a large community for.
Sure.
And from the very beginning, from as soon as press started for it, and for the straight actors on the show, having to make decisions of were you going to discuss your sexual orientation or not, and some of us, Gale and myself included, kind of certainly felt like it's kind of nobody's business and it doesn't matter.
I agree.
And it's kind of was at the time felt like an innately homophobic question to ask anyway, because it shouldn't matter. The characters are gay, and that's really all you need to know. And but I'm just speaking for myself. I mean, I definitely felt it an incredible responsibility for for the character, for a number of storylines that I had to go through to, like Gale said, absolutely. There's always this feeling, I think, for all of us, we got to get this right. This is. We knew there was something historical going on here. We knew there was something groundbreaking going on here, and we could either make it for the betterment of this community or for their harm, and we just wanted to get it right and help improve the lives of the people who we were representing, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think that's beautiful, and I think that somebody picked well to be lucky enough to have all of you to represent, because a lot of actors, we hate to say this, are just like, where's my latte and where's my paycheck, right, and then they're done.
Well,
but
we did
you
that
all
too.
have these beautiful hearts and souls.
Yeah.
And now this is where I get really airy-fairy because I'm Irish.
I'm Irish.
Yeah,
too.
I could
Don't
tell.
worry about it.
I could tell.
I'm about to cry.
I'm
right
too.
there.
You guys have these beautiful hearts and souls that I can feel, and I have felt with you, Scott, and with you, Gale, having you on the show before. But I can feel it from Robert and from Peter. And boy, the gay community lucked out the day that all of you got chosen for this show, because. Wow, and did that community need it at that time? Need that kind of love, and need a bunch of actors that really cared about who they were playing, and not just, God, it's great to be working because I got a new Mercedes, $100,000. I mean, it's what a wow. That was really a universal moment that you were all picked, because a lot of people sit across from me with varying degrees of beauty, and I can tell you that all of you have a lot, and I think that's why your fans still feel so connected to you.
Thanks, Sheena.
6 years later,
So sweet.
Thank you.
I feel connected to you, and I don't even know you except for Scott and Gale a little bit. Peter, now what about for you, and also Robert, as you came out for you, did you feel the pressure as well that now you have to represent your own community?
Yeah, I was going to say earlier that I'm not sure it was any easier just because I actually am gay to be like, oh, well, I got this. Like, I was certainly aware. The only thing I think that I maybe understood more inherently at the very beginning than maybe the rest of the cast, except for Randy, was the sort of hunger for images and role models. Like, I remembered being 11 and 12 and 13 and knowing I was different and knowing something was up, but not seeing myself anywhere in the pantheon.
Right.
And so I think I did come to it with that, but I certainly didn't come to it knowing like, I'm here to accept a lot of awards and give a lot of speeches about civil rights. Like, wow, that was certainly not something that they trained us for at Boston University School of Theater Arts.
Right.
So it was certainly an eye-opening experience on every level, but you just kind of did it. You just kind of kept putting yourself out there. And I want to applaud my castmates. I mean, Robert and I, do a lot of the gay fundraisers and speaking and a lot of politics and stuff, but so do these guys. They don't fool around. Michelle Clunie does more fucking, excuse me.
That's okay, Peter. I'll get another show.
So sorry, I'm a horrible person. You can send all complaints to Jekyll Tireman, my attorneys. Michelle does more freaking, gay lesbian fundraisers and political rallies and stuff than I do. Like, she's just always out there. And Thea and Scott are good anytime they need to be anywhere. Gale too. Anytime they need to be anywhere, they're there. They show up, and it's really it's something I'm incredibly grateful for. So, anyway.
Well, don't you think that just as a human being, you don't have to be a part of something for it to be your cause? As human beings, we should feel impassioned about everything that's affecting everybody.
We're talking about human rights. And
absolutely.
Same, women's rights, gay rights. I mean, we're still working on passing the Equal Rights Amendment, which that's just atrocious. Don't even get me going on that.
Yeah, okay. That's for when you come back by yourself and we'll just talk about that for an hour.
I'm but it's always shocking to me. People will be like, well, why are you standing up for the LGBT community? I'm like, what are you talking about? We all have, to me, I think it's more of a duty to stand up for each other.
I agree.
Because if we can form this coalition of women, the LGBT community, Latinos, unions, that's how you really keep a country strong.
Because everybody is a minority in
Everyone's
some regard.
A minority.
Mm-hmm. And I think growing up Irish American, my mom very much kind of emphasized that, being from an oppressed people who were not treated terribly well when they came to this country, don't have a prejudice against anyone. And you remember that everybody is the same and everybody should be treated the same. And I grew up with that very much instilled in me. Yeah. And so I consider every community mine. I don't care if it's me or not. I go and I'll march for anybody. I'll speak for anybody.
Right.
But I think we're so segregated by who we are in this country. Are you male or female? Are you gay or straight? Are you tall or short? Are you fat or thin? What's your ethnic background? What's your religious background? How do you vote? And everything is very definite little boxes that we're supposed to put ourselves in. And most of us don't fall into those boxes. Most people fall somewhere in the middle of all of that and don't fit in the communities. And so, and whether we like it or not, people are influenced by celebrity. When people see you and Thea and Gale and Scott and Sharon out supporting something, whether or not it's your community, maybe I'll think about that because I saw a celebrity do it, and it's it's kind of banal, but it is what people do. That's why it's so important.
Yeah, and putting the stress on civil rights and human rights as opposed to LGBT rights or women's rights.
I agree.
Yeah,
and it's all what the show was great for as well, and where it branched out in a way Showtime never even expected. More than just a niche show. For having at least half the audience be straight. Mostly women, but men as well. It's all about reducing ignorance out there, and especially at the time we were doing the show, the more people could feel like they knew gay people. And it's what's going on now, as well as things try to move forward. The more they try to put a human face on this supposedly frightening evil that's out there.
Right.
It's
you can put a face on evil.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot harder for people to turn away from it, and we would hear that all the time from straight mothers who would, middle-aged women who would watch the show with their 14-year-old daughters, and they would say, I never really knew a gay person before, I get it now, I didn't know, and they turn into the biggest P flag even though they don't have a gay child out. They become activists, and we spread a lot of that during the show, and with the events we go to as well, all of us.
And you see it's in the air. I mean, you see these young children. There's that YouTube video going around of the young boy who stood up to his principal, and he was speaking, and you see the activism is in the air, and people that are speaking up in a kind way, simply speaking up and speaking from their heart, and it's just beautiful.
My favorite thing about the show, beautifully acted and beautifully written. I mean, you really felt like you were friends with these people to the point where, and I think when you came on the show, Scott, I was halfway through the series. I was watching it kind of on DVD and catching up on it. When it ended, I mourned. I mean, I felt like my friends were all gone, and I'm a little crazy, I'm Irish, but I felt like, oh my God, it's over and there's no new episodes, because you were so caught up in what everybody was doing that you really kind of felt like, oh, now it's over. And I think that was when a really good series kind of grabs you by the soul, and you're living week to week with people. When it ends, you think, oh, well, what am I going to do now? That's an hour of my week is figuring out. But to me, that's a testament of how brilliantly written and acted it was, and directed.
Yeah.
Yes.
That you got that feeling from it, and not just like, okay, well, now I'll just move on to something else, and let me find somebody else who'll take their clothes off on Showtime, and I'll start watching that show. But the idea that that you really are that suspension of disbelief, that you are carried away by something to the point where you think of characters more as friends. And when I was receiving emails over the last few days from your wonderful fans all over the world, the thing that really grabbed me was how much they really feel like your friends, they were sitting and watching friends interact. And I think that was one of the beautiful things about the show, was that there was a lot of dialogue and scenes that were just people being friends and interacting as friends without some huge giant plot line or it was just hanging time.
Yeah.
And I think most people crave that gang of friends. And then you guys kind of developed that, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, Robert, what was it like for you? Because you kind of came out, right, through the course of the show?
Yeah. I was going to say that craving for friendship that you're talking about, I think it's certainly universal, but I think it's also heightened in the gay community. There's a lot of I think it's one of the reasons that the show meant so much. When people would come up and fans would be very excited about the show, there was like an extra layer of enthusiasm that I think was attributable to the fact that there never had been anything like it before, and finally there's this voice, and I guess for me it was just I'm sitting here listening to the gang, and honestly I'm just thinking what an extraordinary journey it was. It was really an amazing thing to get to come from a truthful place in that way. As a human being, to find my own truth, and to be find my own inner courage, and being willing to state that. Of course, many people do that much more easily than I did, but I had my own version of mom and dad and fears and whatnot. I think as every individual does. So we all find where on the journey we kind of stand up, and hopefully it's sooner than later. And it just happened to align for me with this amazing experience and these incredible folks that that I was blessed to be working with.
Well, and it was something we were all enormously proud of you for doing it. I mean, the I won't say difficulties, but it was a decision you didn't make lightly.
Right.
And
your life was going on as the show was going on.
Exactly. And I remember having discussions with you, and I know you talked about it with everybody, and you really weighed it all out, and the courage you showed in doing it. I thought it made it's a great memory of mine from doing the shows, like to have that kind of thing happen, that the show in some ways helped you find the courage.
Well, it's fun. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. It's funny retroactively. It's almost a little embarrassing, quite honestly, that it was such a big deal. But of course, there are lots of reasons for that.
But it was at the time. Absolutely, it was at the time.
Robert, you shouldn't be embarrassed at all.
2011.
No. Look, we all know actors right now, very big actors who are still in the closet,
sure. And that's their right.
They're
if that's
fearful,
what they want,
and that's absolutely their right.
Absolutely.
But what you did was took enormous courage, and I don't know if I could have done that. That it's huge, and we all looked up to you a great deal. It's huge what you did.
I agree.
Well, thanks, but I appreciate that, and at the same time, I do want to say that there are folks on the front line who are in vastly more challenging circumstances who are walking through the same thing, and I'm grateful to be living the truth, and
nice.
No more of that silliness. And it's interesting. People often come up and say, do you think being open has affected your career in a negative way? And my sense is that it's all a perfect unfolding. I'm sure that I imagine that there are opportunities that haven't come my way because of it, and many that have, and many that made no difference one way or the other.
Well, I'd like to say too, on the opposite side of that, I would like to condemn Peter Paige for never coming out as actually straight.
Why is Peter such a closet case? It's just embarrassing.
Well, that he's actually a straight man who's masking himself as a gay man so he can squeeze women's breasts all over the country.
That was such a great.
In hopes
Peter,
that,
would you
that
like to
Queer
talk
as
about
Folk
that?
2 is coming.
Yes. Peter, would you address that point?
Scott here's the backstory behind this script. Scott, I have a thing about boobs. I love boobs.
Okay.
Example, Sharon Gless has a lovely pair of Golden Globes. And I have always loved boobs. I don't know if it's because I don't get to play with boobs in my personal life.
Peter, I don't know if you've ever played with my boobs.
You never played with
in a more
me.
social environment. I like boobs. And Scott used to just sit and seethe as I would play with the jugs of pretty much every woman on and off set. And Scott was like, you all are going to feel so violated when at the end of the show, Peter Paige goes, ha ha, suckers, I'm really straight.
Peter, you are welcome to come on the show anytime, just you and me, and you can play with my boobs if you want.
Peter, I just have to say, and this is
Thank
not.
you, they look very nice.
Oh, well, thank you.
I just have to say, Peter, you've never played with my boobs. And
Michelle, you barely have boobs.
oh, but I love my boobs.
See, he likes
You
like
like
boobs that are not for sexiness.
Oh, you like
they're
big-
for-
you like
That's the biggest
boobies.
notable I've ever heard.
He likes functional boobs, like I could nurse 5 kids at once. That's
Oh,
what
like
I
you
think.
like boobies, like big bouncy boobies. Okay.
You know what? All of you are wonderful, and I'm so sorry that we're out of time because I could keep you on till 9 o'clock at night.
thank you.
Will you all come back and see me again, either together or individually?
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely,
you.
Sheena. Thanks for having us.
And Peter, where's the best place people can find you online?
Where's the best place to find me online? You can go to peterpage.net. You can look for me on Facebook. You can of course follow things on IMDb. I've got an episode of Bones coming up, and
Nice.
I've been doing a lot of writing and directing, so there'll be more news on that front soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. The wonderful Peter Paige. Gale, how about you? Are you still kind of a web shy, or have you ventured into the cyber frontier?
I haven't decided yet.
And Gale, I know you will come back and see me again because we're going to do our heavy metal free-for-all show.
Well, we have to listen to the new Motorhead record because I have it.
Nice.
In my hand.
You'll have to bring it. Yeah, I have L.A. Guns and Lizzie Borden and all kinds of fun stuff we'll crank up.
You got it.
All right.
All right.
Gale, thank you so much for being here. Gale Harold, everybody. And for my 3 in studio, wow, hasn't this been just a super fun time?
This has been great.
Amazing.
Michelle, where's the best place to reach you?
Well, my phone number is 3. No.
Oh, my
And she's got boobs.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, Facebook I think is a good
You do a lot of
place.
stuff on Facebook.
Yeah. You can kind of, a lot of people are going there to get their news, actually. So,
That's good.
yeah, that's a good place.
And do you
to
like
find
that
me.
interacting with the fans and kind of being there?
I do. It's interesting because, you know, my page is an interesting page. I mean, I would say it's pretty much a progressive page, but, you know, I do have, you know, I have friends I make on airplanes. I'm flying around. Some of them are Republicans, independent, and so we sometimes get into it, and it's interesting. But
I feel the same way.
I keep the peace, though. I really do keep the peace, and I think that, you know, I think if we can have an honest, intelligent conversation, we could solve a lot of problems. So
I like that. I like that. Taya, how about you?
I think like there's a fan page, Thea Gill fans. You
Yeah.
can reach me there.
You're the shy one of the group.
No.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
I know it can be kind of overwhelming live radio if you're not, you know.
She's doing great.
You don't, yeah, she's fantastic.
Thumbs up.
And Mr. Scott Lowell?
Well, I'll say first that Robert Gant's battery died on his phone.
We lost Robert,
We lost
yes.
Robert.
So look Robert up and Google him, and
so,
he's amazing.
Yes, he's everywhere as well, and he's wonderful, and see everything that Robert Gant does. So I'll say goodbye for him. And me, ScottLowell.com, and Facebook and Twitter, and my porn site, and
I like
everywhere.
that. Yeah.
Just look it up.
ScottLowellPorn.org.
Exactly.
Scott Lowell Porn Organization. And you will come and see me again.
I absolutely will. It's always such
I
a
would
treat.
love that. It's so nice to be here with
Yeah.
you. Yeah, and Michelle's on Twitter as well.
and Michelle Clunie.
Fancy.
And if you miss any of the links for any of these fantastic people, go to SheenaMetalExperience.com or LATalkRadio.com, and I will gladly forward the links over to you. It's the Sheena Metal Experience on LA Talk Radio, and you know what we do here, people. Every Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m., we rip the veil off the human sideshow and expose the creatures I like to call big old Homo sapiens at their most bizarre and truly at their most beautiful. And every day on the show, it may be my show, it is the Sheena Metal Experience after all. That doesn't mean it's not always and forever, undoubtedly and indubitably, and you know what I say, people. It's my show, but it's your experience. And thanks for listening. Have a great night, and I'll see you all tomorrow.